he was the head of the business team at that time. And he said, you need to interview here. And I said, first of all, I've never worked retail. I can't speak Japanese. I've got too many strikes against me and I can't stand a depressing experience. So I'm not going to interview. He's like, no, interview at Apple. So I did. A few interviews later, I got a part-time job there.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be here this evening.
Thank you for asking me. You're
I've
delightful.
I've known you since 2003.
That's right.
You just told me
right.
2003.
At the ACCJ.
Wow. So tell me, what brought you in Japan? What brought you to Japan first?
Well, I started out in the music business.
That's right, 'cause I heard you sing. I'm sorry.
No, interrupt.
But I was listening to you. I looked at your Facebook page because I hadn't seen it, and then I heard you singing the song that you wrote.
Yes, yeah.
You have a voice. You have some pipes on you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to do it the short version.
Okay.
I'm a singer-songwriter by birth, basically, but I went into the business side of it. I worked for CBS Records for, I don't know, like 11 or 12 years or something, I don't remember. It was my first big corporate job. And I wasn't like a high-level person, but I did contract administration for compilations. Okay. So you want to put Michael Jackson on a compilation in Germany, you got to come to me, and I do all the reading the contracts and figuring out if we have the right to do it and getting approval from the management, blah, 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 blah. So it was good training because I'm not afraid of contracts. I did not want to be a lawyer, my gosh. And I fell in love. One of the places I ended up being sent to, because I did some travel, is Japan. And I wasn't necessarily into Japanese anything.
What year was this?
Oh gosh, I was there right out of college, and I guess it must have been in the 80s, basically. Okay. I mean, it's been a long time. And I'm terrible at remembering dates. But so anyway, fell in love, not with Japanese culture per se. I wasn't interested in the language. I wasn't interested in any of that. I fell in love with something called Shibuya-kei, which was a type of pop mix music that was done by bands called Pizzicato 5. And myself and one of my best friends, still a dear friend who's Japanese, we decided if Japan is going to move into the world in a way that's more high quality than when you bring over, it was called mecena, the whole, these big pop artists here, they'd pay for them to do Carnegie Hall. Nobody who showed up was a real audience. It was all people paid by the Japanese corporation in the States. Why? Because that kind of music it wasn't that appealing to outside of Japan. So we thought, hey, bring some really good stuff that's low people don't know about in Japan, but it's really good, and let's see if we can promote it outside of Japan. And we were going to be a nonprofit first and all these kinds of things. Anyway, we had a little tiny place and office down in NoHo, and we started working with Pizzicato 5. And Pizzicato 5, they are and were brilliant, just genius as a band. And people fell in love with them. We got them a deal with Matador Records, which is a pretty high-level indie label. I don't think they're indie anymore than they were then. And we made something called Psycho Night, which was a new music seminar, which is this big festival. It was like the college years when college music was really happening, and we brought a bunch of different bands from Japan over, and one of them was Pizzicato 5, and people fell in love, for good reason, because we had good taste. Long story short, many things happened. We toured in Europe, we toured in the States, and never made a lot of money, or we made a lot of money and then it all went because everything was so expensive and we didn't have any financial backing. And they basically kind of invited us and said, listen, our current manager's leaving, come to Japan and manage us here. Now, Tom is Japanese, so for him it's not so hard. His kids and wife are in New Jersey, but we figured he'd be back and forth, and I come stay. Because I was divorced. I wasn't interested in having kids or anything like that. I never had been. And I thought, okay, here's an adventure. So me and 13 boxes and my bicycle. Sorry.
13 boxes in a bicycle.
I know that may be that may be the title of the
13
memoir.
boxes, I like that.
But
you came here, and this is in the
came
80s?
here.
In the
This
80s?
is this ended up being early 90s, early mid 90s. My folks had passed. I was footloose and fancy free.
Are you the only child?
No, my brother. I'm not sure where he is right now, but I do have a younger brother. 9 years.
9 years younger.
Yeah.
And you don't know where he's at?
No, I think he's probably okay. He's got a challenging life.
Okay.
Let me put it that way.
You grew
But
up
my
in New
cousins, my cousins know where he is, and as long as they're sort of in touch, that's okay.
That's interesting. You know what I usually go into? Pizzicato 5 is what they were called?
Pizzicato 5. Pizzicato like the violin
Pizzicato
plucking
5.
sound.
Was composed of what? Men or women? Or?
It was the front woman and the singer is named Maki, Nomiya Maki.
Okay.
And the masterminds, there were two, but then one left, and then the main mastermind is a guy named Yasuharu Konishi. And brilliant, just brilliant. I don't even know how to say. Brilliant from the viewpoint that they took all these Western tropes and all these Western ideas, and they took old style enka and kaiokoku and all these things, and they mixed them around into this frothy but somehow deep music. They had a song called Twiggy Twiggy and a video, and even now people will sing that to me when I say Pizzicato 5. They'll be, oh my God, Twiggy Twiggy, you know. It was just...
So how'd you come about meeting them? No, you guys scouted them and found them? Or?
Well, they were on Columbia.
Okay.
So they were already big in that small pond here in Japan. But I don't remember exactly how we stumbled on them. But one thing I do remember is that my mom, who was dying of cancer at the time, the reason, so many things. So I worked for Prince for a couple of years for his publishing company in Warner Chapel through a very good friend of mine called Kat Jackson. She was the head and I was the kind of the GM of, it wasn't publishing his stuff. It was publishing other people like Sly and Robbie and people like that.
So you never got with Prince?
I mean, I would go there and I got to meet him a few times and be in meetings, but Kat was the one who was really connected with him.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very sad that he's gone. But anyway, so while that was happening, I took that job because it was the most money I'd ever made, and I wanted my mom to be in a good hospital. So, and you know, the healthcare system being what it is, you need money to have anything go well. So, you know, she was there, and she was, you know, private room, well taken care of, all of that, right? And she loved Pizzicato 5 music. And the way Maki looked and the whole energy, it just brought her a lot of joy. And I thought, and she passed and it was horrible and blah, blah, blah. But I thought, you know what? If they can bring joy to an older black lady who has absolutely no connection whatsoever to, you know, this kind of pop or anything like that, what joy could they bring to other people? And that was the first impetus. And then many things happened. We don't have like 17 years to tell the story, but many things happened. We came here. I depended on Tom for all the translation. I did not learn Japanese. I never did really learn it, and I was really, it wasn't something I was into doing, although I've changed my tune about it now because I really need it. But, so we did that. We started working with other bands after Pizzicato 5 broke up. We did promoting things like the Mozart Effect here in Japan. We did that kind of stuff. So small company, bilingual, find cool things from overseas and bring them here. So in 2020? So 11 years ago, I walk into the Apple store in Shibuya, and a very, very good friend of mine named Andrew Shuttleworth is the business manager there. And I'm depressed because my old Mac is just, it's on its last legs. And I'm a Mac girl. I've been a Mac girl for 30 years. And Andrew sees me, he's like, what's going on? Why are you so down? And I said, I don't know. Do I need to just go back to America? What do I need to do? I'm not sure.
You didn't know Andrew at all?
No, Andrew was a good friend. I knew him before the Apple store.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then he went to work for Apple. He used to be a Windows guy, but then he went to work for Apple. And he was the business manager. He was the head of the business team at that time. And he said, "You need to interview here." And I said, first of all, they're not that, first of all, I've never worked retail. I can't speak Japanese. I've got too many strikes against me and I can't stand a depressing experience. So I'm not going to interview. He's like, "No, interview at Apple." So I did. A few interviews later, I got a part-time job there. And I was very, very surprised. I was very surprised.
Doing what?
Well, first I was doing basically stockist, like stock, and lifting things up and putting them. And then I went to sales, and I was part-time to full-time. And then I love talking to business customers. Love it. So I ended up going with the business team, because that's where I really, like, I understand where they're coming from.
Right,
you know, it's really like, yeah, it's consumer, but it's also the economies of scale, and if you're a solopreneur, what that situation is like, and if you're a big corporation, how do you convince people that Apple is going to bring a delightful experience, like all those things. So I loved it, and I still love it. I love my full-time work, and it fuels my passions, which is basically creating my art, my various types of art.
Right. Which are?
I'm a writer.
Okay.
So I have a newsletter.
What type of writer?
I write, so I finally started a newsletter. It's called Tokyo Terry's Rebellion, and it started after the hospital, and it was all about, so it's sequences, so it's 10 at a time. So I don't have to just keep writing whether I have anything to say or not. It's 10 at a time, themed. So the first thing was, holy crap, I'm out of the hospital, and now what do I do? To continue to heal myself. What lifestyle changes do I need to make? And then the second sequence is, I'm getting better. Now I want to pay more attention to something that I'm obsessed with, which is creative consistency. If I could choose to be the person I would want to be in, science fiction, I'd be Neil Gaiman.
Okay.
Because I love him. He is who I want to grow into at some point. Okay. He's prolific. He is a brilliant writer, but he's also a consistent writer. He's creatively consistent. He's always writing, and from his writing springs TV shows and movies, and he's a lovable soul. I met him. He came here years ago, and we spent a day together, and it was fantastic. He is just a mensch.
When you tell me about being a little girl, when you grew up in New York, your mom and dad stayed together the whole time?
Yes, they did.
Until what age?
Well, they were married until they passed.
Oh, really? How long was that?
Well, let's see. You can tell I'm not good with the
well, how
years.
old were you when they passed?
My mom was passed in 1993. She was 62.
Okay.
My dad passed in 83, and he was 68. And he was older. He was 17 years older than her.
Right, okay.
But it was a complicated situation, as all families are. I was born and raised in Harlem. I was born in Harlem, raised until I was a little kid in Queens, in Harlem, and then we went to St. Albans.
Okay.
At the time of hip hop starting to come about. And then we went to Queens Village, and the Queens Village house is the house I know the best. My dad was a pastor, and he made his money to take care of us as being a butcher. Okay. So he would go drive 2 hours one way to go butcher, to go skin things. And my mom wanted to have her own seamstress business, but my dad wasn't comfortable with her doing that. And I think part of my want to be an entrepreneur comes from my mom.
Okay.
Fulfilling the promise that she never was able to really get to. She had a little shop, and I was the little bookkeeper, and she would sew these beautiful, beautiful things. But my dad, he shut that all down. And he wasn't a bad guy, but he was older, traditional. He was born and raised in South Carolina on a reservation.
Right.
His grandmother was full-blood Cherokee. My picture of my grandma, I have very few pictures, but my picture of my grandmother, she looks Japanese. It's so weird. But
had he been married prior to your mother?
yes, he married prior to mom.
Have any children?
Yeah, I apparently have a stepbrother who I've never met.
You never met?
No.
So he didn't talk to you, didn't bring the family?
Never got involved, and I didn't even know he existed until my dad passed.
Had your mother been married prior?
No.
Never, okay.
Her only marriage.
So you and your brother are from your mother and father?
Yes.
So when you were going through school, in elementary school, were you more academic or were you more physical, more sports-minded?
Oh, I was definitely academic, and not academic, but I just was in my own world the whole time.
What was your world?
A book.
What kind
Give
of books?
me a book, usually fantasy of some sort,
Okay.
sometimes science fiction.
Right.
I wasn't a nonfiction reader.
Mm-hmm.
Give me something. I would walk down the street reading a book. I read really early. I was an early reader, and I didn't understand why I couldn't be in those worlds. I didn't understand why can't I be in the magic worlds? Why can't I be?
So that continued through elementary, junior high,
It
high
continues
school?
now. If I could walk down,
Right.
if I
That's
could
why
walk,
you're in Japan.
if I
That's why
could
you're in
walk
Japan.
down the street with a book.
It's interesting that you say that because I always tell people, they ask a lot of times, they say, why are you in Japan? I said, because I love the future.
Yeah.
And this is as close as I can get.
Yeah.
Look at this place.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in Tokyo.
Yeah.
There's no place on the planet. I use this analogy all the time. You could pull up to a convenience store in a convertible Rolls Royce with the back seat filled full of money that people can see, leave the engine running, get out with your Starbucks coffee, walk inside, be greeted, go over to the magazine shelf, read from page to page, finish your Starbucks, put the magazine back, throw it away. They will say, thank you for coming in. Go out, your Rolls Royce will still be
And
running,
your money
and
will
the
be
money's still
right there.
right there.
That's
The most that would have
right.
happened, somebody might have taken a picture.
That's right.
It.
That's
now,
right.
what city on this planet?
Yeah. Not New
And
York.
that's a real thing.
Not New
and you
York.
can be treated better in a convenience store than the most high-end place in New York or any other place in the world.
Now, I love my city. I do love my city.
Yes, yes.
But I love my image of what it used to be. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been back in 20 years.
What city?
So,
Are you talking
New
about your
York.
city in New York?
Yeah.
Oh, so do I. If I had to
my,
go back to the States, the only place I'd live is on that island called Manhattan.
That's
That's the only place I would live.
That's it.
If I had to go back to the States, because you have the diversity to a big extent, at least when you come out your little areas.
Yes, that's true.
And it's right next door.
Yes, it's true. Yes, it's
That's
true.
what I like about it. So I can do that.
Yes.
But you've got to have some big bucks.
And I don't. So there we are then. And also,
But it's possible.
I finally think I've figured out how to make myself study Japanese. My whole business life will be better if I can master a decent level of Nihongo.
How did your beloved community help you through a very traumatic time in your life, an illness you went through?
Absolutely. I believe if it wasn't for what I call my found family, my closest two brother and sister, my Japanese brother, and the community we have all around us, that I may not have made it.
Now,
my wonderful body.
Can you talk about what happened?
Yes, sir. I I've always had problems with my right breast.
Okay.
Off and on. Never cancer, but always tumors and all kinds of things. And I developed.
Since when? Since you were.
Oh, since I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Since I was like 16.
Okay, all right.
And finally, I developed something called Phyllodes tumor, and it was malignant. Not cancerous malignant, but malignant, and it grew to like 3.5 pounds, 3.5 kilos. So I was walking around in terrible pain and really out of my mind for months. I didn't know what it was. I was afraid to go to the doctor. I mean, it was just, I was a mess. And working, and so my found family, who are from Philly, they don't mess around. Well, one is from Philly, one's from another part of Pennsylvania, but they are they're like strong black women, except they're white.
Okay,
they take no nonsense from me, because they're like, we want you to live,
right,
you crazy person. The guy is he is ex Special Forces, and so he'll turn Sergeant Shannon on me. You're going to the, I mean, he just, they were freaked out.
What's the husband and wife?
Yeah, husband and wife,
Okay.
Lauren and Chris, my beloveds. So they freaked out, and I sort of freaked out, but I didn't freak out enough. Finally, in December, I said, all right, I'll go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, and they diagnosed me, and they said, this has to come off. This is not sustainable, because it was basically, I called it the alien. It was basically eating my blood and my protein. And I was down to I was really thin. And it was a bad scene. It was like a horror movie, like Aliens, only it was inside of me. So I went to Niseki Byoin for the surgery, and that was the 1st of February. And I was in for until the end of March. And I still haven't fully grokked that experience, because I had to shut down the hysterical part of me to go through it. Like, I haven't cried through the whole thing. I will at some point, but I had to, you have to kind of shut down the parts that will stop you from going through the tests and the needles and the, all of the other stuff that I hate. I hate that stuff, but had to be done. I had the surgery, great doctors, did everything in Japanese. I was like, you crazy? You're going in the hospital and then you're not going to understand what in the hell they're saying, but I understood more than I thought. And I was very thin, and they took it off, and then I just started the process of healing, the hospital healing, which is same food, good food and blah, 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 blah.
You didn't need chemo or anything like that?
Oh, no, it's not cancer.
It's not cancer.
I mean, it's
a tumor. It's a tumor.
Yeah, it was a massive tumor.
Okay.
And yeah, even now, it's hard for me to even take it in that it happened. But that's okay, because you know what? It happened, and it's in the past. So Lauren and Chris just took over. You said you were laughing. We were laughing earlier. You're like, I'll put you in a room and you'll do IF. And they took over. They said, okay. They and my other close friends, who were all in the same friend group, we're all a pod, and they redid my apartment for me, my little a little bit dinky apartment. They took stuff from my place and put it in their place so that I'd clear it out more, because there were no closets in that apartment. And I came home to this, it was much lovelier, it was much more like a nest, and it was my friend Tracy, just gorgeous, wonderful people who love me. And it was funny, because I'm not used to thinking about that. I'm used to putting it out there and loving people.
And not expecting it back, yeah.
Yeah, well, it doesn't even, I assume I am woman, hear me roar, I'm not going to need it back. I needed it back.
Who doesn't?
So that was amazing. And my Apple's an amazing company. They took really good care of me. I am cherished at that place. It's amazing. It's like, I just feel like I feel blessed in a non-religious way.
I hear what you're saying.
Because I feel like, all right, I must have done something right at some point. Because the company I keep, both in my personal life and in my company life, those are people who cherish me and who see my worth and my value higher than I even realized. And that was a revelation, has been a revelation. So then I lost a lot of weight. I started gaining the weight back. I started reacting to stress, eating bad stuff. There's various stressors. But what's nice is I caught myself now. And Lauren and Chris have become my chefs.
Okay.
My HelloFresh. So they would, Chris is a chef, so he's an amazing chef. And Lauren, they're foodies. They're food people. They used to have restaurants. They're food. They're about food like I am about science fiction and technology. Okay. So they were bringing me this amazing food. I started to bulk up and start gaining weight back in the good way. Then I started going back to work and doing the bad type of stress-based eating, junk, and So I basically started writing about that experience. Like, I'm having trouble with this. I know I want to write. I know I have all these songs I want to do. I have all this art. I'm doing these illustrations. I'm bursting with this energy, but I have to work, and that takes a lot of time. How do I figure out managing my time better so that I can put the time in, and all these things? And I started to gain the weight back, and then 3 weeks ago, some close cousin types sent me a little note and said, "Are you in the market for an apartment?" And I went, "Okay, well, I don't have any savings, so I don't have Shikikan and Reikan and all this other stuff." And I was like, "I don't think I can do it." And they said, "It's pretty inexpensive. Why don't you come see?" I went to see. It's right next door to Lauren and Chris. Right next door.
Can you believe it?
And it's a nice corner apartment. It has closets. And, it's not like it's super modern, but it's a step up. Yeah. And it's right next door to the fam. And so I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. And I spent a lot of money that I didn't really have, but I just said, you know what? This is a better move because your environment helps, take you up or take you down, one or the other. So I love it already. I mean, I still got boxes and, various stuff, but the point is I'm in a better place and I'm eating better, and they haven't even started doing my menu again. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm rocking more of a Mediterranean diet and really enjoying it. And I started to very slowly bring my weight back down. And I'm at 69 kilos now. My goal is 60, because 60 and strong is, I'm only 5'2".
Right.
So it's not like
Yeah.
And I started, I'm a lover of Apple Fitness Plus. Oh my God, it's wonderful. It's the best,
app that you can use.
Yeah. Oh, it's just amazing. Okay. And the thing is, you're not supposed to have it in Japan, but I have an American account, so I just use that. It is awesome. The people are awesome. It's super Apple-y and diverse and high quality. And I feel like they want me to do better. I feel like they care. They don't know me from Adam, but I feel like they care that I get it. And there's stuff for older people. Mm-hmm. Well, so all these things have happened, and I'm utterly grateful. Mm-hmm. I do my gratefulness list every morning. Like I said, my body wants to be healthy. It's kind of going, hello, we would like to be healthy. And I am finally willing to help it.
Right.
Willing to help it. No, I don't want those Daifuku mochis. They're delicious, but they're not good for me. Sugar is not good for me. It's just not the thing I should be eating. Doesn't mean I can never eat sugar. It just means I need to get to regulation. I'm using Lose It, not diet app, but so you can track what you're eating, and that's been helpful. It's really helpful because I think, I'm doing pretty well, and I look and go, oh my gosh, I really overdid it. So now I'm like, all right, just regulate. I take my lunch in every day. When Lauren and Chris start doing my meals again, that's going to be even better. Because if you live next door to a cordon bleu level chef,
that's right.
You just,
good to go.
It's good to go. Good to go. And I'm going to pick up my newsletter again. And I have more sequences planned, mm-hmm. and my illustrating. I make digital art on my iPad, and I'm going to start getting my lyrics. I have all these lyrics. I have one song, which is basically like, you could have asked us, you could have tried. There was a moment when you could have been satisfied. Ooh. You took away my freedom. It's a mystery when you could have asked.
I like that. I like the lyrics already.
And I'm trying to say, you could have asked us. You could have hired us.
Yeah, right.
You went in with bad intent. And if you don't go in with bad intent, look at the beauty that can happen.
That's true.
Go in with good intent and good execution and good behavior, and the world just opens up. But if you go in thinking, these darkies, or whatever they were calling us at the time, of course it's going to be a mess. Of course America is struggling and in trouble. Of course. We have a wound. that has never healed. It's never healed. I mean, it's obvious. I not because I'm here, but because growing up, I grew up in America. You know, it's like we have a psychic wound that we need to work on, but people don't want to hear that.
That's true. Well, it's going to take people like you and me.
And we're gonna have
Let
to
the
get
people
the
know they
word
get to
out
hear.
there.
We have to let them know.
I'm a Twitter person, and I'm always on Twitter. And it's interesting how many white women are starting to slow. I mean, Roe versus Wade made them go, "What? You mean the stuff can hit me too?" Because as long as it's hitting people that I'm not close to or I'm not one of, it's easy to just, you know, whatever. But if it's hitting you and your kid, your young teenage daughter, and finally I suspect people are, I mean, the pink pussy hats, you know, whatever, but this is a real thing.
I think it's going to go. I have a lot of faith in humanity, and I'm sure you do too. And I think in time, and you're a sci-fi person, so you have to.
Yes.
It's going to come around. Terri, I want to thank you for this time. We're going to have to do this again and again.
Oh my goodness! You're going to invite me back? I'd love it.
Again.
I really appreciate
you
you asking me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Really. I want to thank all of you for watching this podcast. Remember, it's all on loan, so continue to reach for the stars because you're too blessed to be stressed.